We are recording, and I have to share with whomever might be watching this video, David, that this is absolutely in my 53 years of publishing. This is the most surreal experience, and as I explained to you why, your last book that we discussed, I mean, and you have 19 books, 18, 100 books. How many books you have?
It's not. This is the 19th one.
Where do you find the time to write 19 books, David?
I don't get out much.
And I just saw when I opened my YouTube page yesterday, lo and behold, on the front page was a conversation that you and I had. I think it was 11 years ago. It was an HOA, and it was 11 years ago, and the theme was SEO.
Yes, that's right.
Do you know anything about SEO?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so so that I can properly introduce you. This is a picture of David, a sketch. Don't tell me you drew this too.
No, I didn't. No, I'm not that talented. No. We actually have an in-house artist.
And David is, and you know, you and I, as long as we've known each other, we're going to talk about things today that we have never spoken about before. I mean,
Right.
I
Okay.
kind of knew you had something to do with Derby, but I did not know until the book that you co-founded Derby.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
your duties are research and development. That's good for you. You can do that. Writing, you can do that. Publicity, you can do it. I've got to tell you, the media kit that, and I'm sure you did it. I'm sure you're doing. In the 53 years that I have been publishing, this is the best media kit that I've ever dealt with.
Thank you so much.
You get to the bottom line, and you're a bottom line kind of guy. You did a wonderful job. And if I might, I want to read what Meet the Author. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Or do you want to read it and make
No,
an
it's
audio?
fine. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
David Amerland is a chemical engineer. I've got to tell you this. I knew you. I kind of knew you were. I knew you were an engineer. I just didn't know what kind of engineer. I am now. My landlord is a 86-year-old chemical engineer,
Right.
graduate.
Yeah.
So that was blows me. And you have an MSc in quantum dynamics in laminar flow processes.
Yes.
And we've had zero discussions about that.
Well, it was never pertinent.
He converted his knowledge of science and understanding of mathematics into a business writing career that's helped him demystify you or demystify the world. Or both.
I'm hardly a mystery, but the world always is.
For his readers, I didn't read that part. And is there a demystifying? Can you be demystified? I have never met a person, David, that is so multifaceted and so many things going on. And I thought I was an A kind of person. For his the complexity of subjects is search engine optimization. We talked about that. Search marketing, social media, decision making, communication, and personal development. Right on. The diversity of the subjects is held together by the underlying fundamental of human behavior and the way this is expressed offline, and online. Built to last, the 19th book that David has written, published by Derby, of which he was the co-founder. So he has a personal interest in a couple different ways in the book. Well, I will pause for a moment to just give a big overview, my overview of the book. As I told you, I can't get enough. Tell me more, Dave. For folks, let me put it to you another way. There are 73 million baby boomers in the United States. Okay. And my focus is on baby boomers. That's my major theme, my audience. I believe that 73 million baby boomers ought to have access to this book and this piece of exercise equipment that I have been using for 5 years. It is the finest thing, and it's made for seniors. Made for seniors, because you work with how much resistance you want to, but just with the band, it's safe. It's got a stirrup in it. I've been standing in front of a class and the band has smacked me in the face. Not a fun thing, but every baby boomer ought to have it. And by the end of our conversation, people will understand why. Okay, so David, I learned some new things about why I know you have to love to read. Action movies is kind of your thing. Shoot 'em up video games. You probably are dynamite at that.
Yeah, I do play some. Yes, that's true.
But when do you have time to play shoot 'em up video games? Well, when I make
sometimes in a really hectic day, when you get tired mentally, we need a break. So I can take a 15-minute break and play an interactive game. And I'm not very good for my team because I play on autopilot just to decompress. So I tend to get them all killed, but it does help me recover.
Is it a derby team?
No, it's this is I usually play Uncharted, so we get global, and it's people from all over the world.
Is everybody after you?
Well, I think they're more understanding, but they do get frustrated.
Okay. And David's area of expertise is circuit training and martial arts. That I did know about you. 40 years experience in the fitness industry, and I don't know if I've said it already, but this is my 20th year of being certified. Indoor cycling was where I initially got my certification with the YMCA Association. I don't know if I've ever told you, or maybe you saw, in 2009, I had a traumatic brain injury that was brought on by, I had just taught an exercise class, came home, passed out, hit my head on the wall. I've had an artificial heart valve for 30 years, mechanical heart valve. And so I take warfarin, and worst thing you do is hit your head, da-da-da-da-da. But the important thing to the conversation was my ejection fraction was 30. You know about ejection fractions. 35 is danger. You're dying. I had 30. In 7 years, I created an exercise in the classroom, basically for me, and my ejection fraction in 7 years went from 30 to 60, almost 65, doubled in strength. And I was actually your age when I did it. And my cardiologist is, how can it be done? But it goes back to your premise that the exercising is about you and what brings value to your life. And only till you understand that can you make the thing work. And
absolutely.
And so let me see if I hit everything here. There are 84 workouts. Movement strategy. I actually want to tear them all out by page and laminate them so I can get to them as opposed to being in a book.
Every chapter has 8 workouts that are varying length, but they require a little bit of time. And it also has 4 workouts, which are very quick. They're designed basically, if you don't have time and you still need to work out, you do one of those. And what happens usually, we have the neuro science to show us this, we have the neurochemical analysis to show us this, is that once your body starts working out, even for a minute, a certain number of neurochemical changes take place. Now, they're going to take place regardless of whether you train for a minute or an hour. The body doesn't differentiate between the two because it's an active state that actually enters. So if you exercise for a minute, those neurochemical changes in your bloodstream actually occur. Those changes then have an impact directly on your organs. They have a direct impact on your microbiome. So certain hormones are secreted. Your hormonal profile changes. And all those things take place within about 60 seconds. So if you stop in 1 minute, you say, well, I've just done a minute. Okay, what have I gained? Well, superficially nothing, but internally we have changed. And if you keep doing this 1 minute, every day of the week for a year, your organs actually get strengthened. Your heart gets stronger, your microbiome becomes a little bit more resilient, your lungs become better, even your muscles begin to basically change because of the effects of these neurochemicals in your bloodstream.
And I might add to that, David, and I do it whenever I have a chance to, getting out of my bed. When I get out, I just don't want to get out the regular way. I want to do some stretching, and I want to strengthen my quads, obviously. And it's easy. It's easy at the edge of your bed to just pull back and do it. And where you need work,
Yes.
stretch that muscle before you have to go out and use
And
it.
that's actually, I'm glad you said this, because it's a very smart way of basically inserting physical activity, which is good for the body, in our everyday life. So, you know, you get out of the bed and you've got your routine, you're activating your body, and you've got into this habit. So essentially, you're helping it retain its mobility in terms of how the muscles work with the tendons and the joints. It helps retain a little bit of flexibility in terms of how those muscles stretch and how the joints support it. And certainly in the morning, first thing, your blood pressure goes up a little bit, your body temperature begins to rise, cortisol levels in the body begin to rise, because that's how we wake up. And this is a very beneficial thing to do, and it doesn't feel very difficult. And that's great. So
someone asked me a question just yesterday, and I didn't have a very good answer because I obviously I didn't know. But as we age, is your diastolic blood pressure number more important than your systolic? In other words, because that has a whole thing to do with how healthy you are.
It depends. I mean, the short answer to that is no. But the real answer always is it depends. If your cardiovascular health is not very good, if your arteries have narrowed, or if they're not in very good health, then certainly it is, and you need to watch that. You need to take the kind of preventative measures which help you basically deal with it in a better fashion. So it comes down always to lifestyle choices, lifestyle activities, diet, sleep, all those things which we need to engage in order to have literally a healthy functioning system. That's our body. That's the body we live in.
Yeah, and I got to tell you too. 3 months ago, I started with my new landlord. He was the one that showed it to me. Reversing Alzheimer's is a book.
Yes, absolutely.
And he actually has taken a class with the author of the book, and it just like your book, it tells the story. It's very simple, and we'll never know about the Alzheimer's if we're trying to reverse it our entire lives. And so and it fits right into this whole lifestyle and choice of lifestyle and how we choose to do the things that we want to do. Now, I'm going to put you through an exercise right now, and it's going to be not a physical one, a mental one. I couldn't put you through an. I am going to. You have 7 chapters and 7 basic chapters, and I'm going to just mention the title of each one, and I want you to, in 3 or 4 sentences, you whatever choice, the lesson to be learned from that chapter. Is that okay?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, chapter number 1, the paradox of fitness.
Okay, we all think we understand what fitness is, and the majority of what we understand is an externally received signal by popular culture, fitness industry, which is a vested interest in passing certain standards to us, and sort of whatever we sort of absorb from advertising and so on. But really what fitness is the activities we put in place to replace the fact that we no longer live in the Stone Age. We don't get up in the morning to hunt for our food, to dig for our water, to sort of climb in order to go somewhere. We don't do that anymore. We live in a modern world. Everything is easy for us. So that's what exercise is. And fitness really for us, and it will always have an individual element, is what we want to be, how we see ourselves, so that our body is functionally ours. That's what it is.
If I might quote you, fitness isn't about pushing harder, it's about training smarter. When you customize your fitness to fit your life, it becomes effortless.
Yes.
I kind of love what you love, do what you love, and love what you do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And these are fundamental elements of activity. We take them across everything we do, whether we talk about business or fitness or life. They're always the same.
Okay, empowerment and control, chapter number 2.
Okay, so essentially, if a lot of us struggle with the world, is because we don't feel in control of our lives. We don't feel in control of our lives. We're overwhelmed by pretty much everything. And if we're overwhelmed and we have stress levels in our body, which become chronic stress levels raise a level of toxicity. They're bad for our organs, bad for our gut, bad for our brain. They destroy our health. So if we basically structure our life, that'll give us a sense of empowerment and control so that it truly becomes our life. Then we become a little bit more resilient, have greater grit, we become hardened to stress, to destructive stress. So we actually are taking a step towards a better, healthy us in that way.
I would say that's pretty important.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I love this chapter title number 3, the hidden organ.
Absolutely. Okay, we talk about fitness and everybody thinks, it's physical, right? It's about lifting, running, cycling, stretching, whatever. But there's nothing we can yeah. Well, there's nothing we can do with our body that can be done without our mind, actually our brain, engaging in it. And this is the organ we never think of. It doesn't have any nerves, so we don't get any feedback from it. We don't really feel when it gets tired. We don't feel it when it gets exhausted. We don't feel when it gets hurt or damaged by what we do. And by better understanding how the body and the brain are integrated, then we can use exercise as an interventionary tool to help not just our physical health, but also our mental health. And that's the key to this. So basically, it's how we can use our brain to help our body by making better decisions, by better understanding how to deal with stress, by better understanding how to control our breathing and our emotional regulation. But at the same time, then we use our body to help maintain the brain health of that particular key organ that pretty much guides everything that we do and almost controls everything that we are.
And as males, we have to work extra hard because we only use half our brain. Is that how that goes?
No, I wish that were true, but no, I mean, we all use our full brain.
Okay, number 4, the fitness recipe.
Right, okay. I mean, basically, the book is not prescriptive in any way, but it does help us analyze what it is that we actually need to do. If we want to maintain our health, there are 4 things we need to keep in mind, which are popularly called the pillars of health. And they are physical activity, which is exercise, it's good nutrition, which is diet, it's repair and recuperate, which is good quality sleep, and the final one is socializing, which essentially help us recalibrate the health of our brain. So if we engage into those 4 things, not only are we guaranteed almost a good, healthy life, but also we're almost guaranteed a long life. And we know this from blue zones across the world, and blue zones are these 5 particular areas across the world where people live a lot longer. And the key element in all those is the sense of community, the sense of socialization that takes place.
Indeed. And the secret drives is chapter number 5.
Okay, that has to do essentially with the things that control us. I mean, if we think about exercise, for instance, we know it's good for us logically. Nobody's ever going to argue against that. But if we check to see the statistics across the world, are pretty grim. About 35% of people exercise only. About 15% of that 35 people actually do regular exercise. Maybe it's 20% now with all the efforts going in. Almost half the world by 2050 is going to be either obese or overweight. That's half the world's adult population. It's frightening. So we need to ask ourselves why. Why is this happening? I mean, we're all smart people. We all want to be healthy. We all understand the need for that and the practicality. And the reason these things are happening are because we are essentially sometimes captives of drives which we were developed in the past. So if we lived in a Stone Age village, for instance, there's a certain adversity we have to exercising, well, to straining ourselves physically if we don't absolutely have to. Why? Because we were geared by evolutionary development to survive. And the only way we can survive is by conserving energy and maintaining that energy conservation across our life. So we try to do as little as possible and do only the things that are necessary. Now, in that stone village past, unfortunately, because life was so hard, what was necessary was actually pretty difficult. We had to run, we had to climb, we had to fight, we had to hunt for our food. We were pretty active, and we're not active anymore. So we don't have to do that bit, but the driver says, hey, you need to take a break. Don't push yourself, just take as much rest as you can. That is still active within us. So we need to be aware of that. And the moment we're aware of that, then we can better manage our own brain and its own urges and kind of the sort of obstacles it places in our path and which trip us up. And that's what that chapter is about.
You're jumping a little ahead. Obstacles. Well, that's number 7. But we got number 6. The golden outcomes.
Yes, well, the golden outcomes. I mean, basically, we want to be fit physically, want to be fit.
The golden
mentally.
outcome. Here's the golden outcome.
and we want to also be healthy for a long time, and we want to be happy. These are the things we want. And if we sort of stop chasing them or start reverse engineering them, then we can get into little steps we can take each day, which accumulate, and cumulatively, those steps then become the life that we actually end up having. And that's a very smart way to go about it.
Yes, and the obstacles.
The obstacles now that we face.
We are our only. We're the obstacles, right?
Yes, I'm glad you said that. Well, essentially, I mean, you know how sometimes, I don't know if you've ever been in a team and you're in a competitive environment and you have a coach. At some point, the coach will tell you, listen, you just learn to get out of your own way. That's what he'll tell you, right? And you hear this said so many times, you think, it doesn't really make a lot of sense at the time because you're not trying. There's nothing. You don't actively try to block yourself. But we all have this little negative self-talk in our head. And we say, if you try to do something, what does your brain tell you? You're too old. You're not fit enough. You're not fast enough. You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. Whatever it is, right? You hear this in your head all the time. And you have to try and overcome that. Now, again, from an evolutionary perspective, that's there to protect us, right? When we're in a little stone village, and I use that example because it brings up a very clear image in our head. If you said, oh, it's a nice day today, and we had a good hunt yesterday, and I'm fed, and we're not hunting again today because we have got a lot of meat, so I'm going to go over the mountain and see what's on the other side. And the voice in your head is going to say, hey, don't do that. You don't know what's there. Maybe a saber-toothed tiger. Maybe it's another village and it'll kill you and eat you. Whatever, right? But it was there designed to help you survive by holding you back. We don't have those obstacles in our path today, so nobody's actively hunting us to kill us and eat us in most cases.
I don't know about that.
In most cases.
Washington's pretty crazy right now.
I agree. The world is crazy right now, but still, largely right. Historically, we are going in the right direction, and those things are sort of less and less as we encounter them. The voices in our head, however, remain very real, and there's no blocking them. You try to block them, they only become louder. So really, you have to be able to acknowledge what it is, understand where it comes from, and then the moment you acknowledge it and embrace it, then you can begin to work your way through it. And there are a number of techniques we can employ to help us, particularly when it comes to exercise, which we're adverse to. And I've been training since I was 13 years old, so that's like 47 years of training. In those 47 years, I've trained every day of my life. And still, when I sort of come to train in the evening, There's this thing in my head that tells me, oh, I'm tired. I've got a lot of work to do. I still have emails to do. Why don't I just continue working and train tomorrow twice as hard? Or it tells me, oh, tomorrow is going to be a difficult day. Or you can just have a rest day today. And I know those things. They sound really reasonable, but I know what happens if I listen to those voices. I'm going to find another excuse the next day. So out of 7 days, which I need to train, I'll probably end up training 3 if I'm lucky. And then I'll feel guilty, and the whole thing begins to becomes very messy.
At least 3 times that you and I've had live stream conversations, you went from our conversation to your workout.
Yes.
It was just at the timing of your workout.
Yeah.
So I got you all excited. Yeah, let's do this.
So really, once we are aware of those things and we say, okay, it's not me being weak, it's not me being really tired. It's a mechanism that's trying to help me conserve energy at a part of the day when I don't have a lot of energy to give. So the moment you understand that, you say, okay, but I'm not under any threat. I do need to exercise, so I'm going to go and work out maybe for 10 minutes only. And if you work out for 10 minutes, usually the chances are that you're going to work out for an hour.
To your point, I have created I did, anybody can do it. I sit in a chair, I turn on some dance music, I get my band, and I start dancing while I'm seated, working the muscles that I need to work. How many songs, however many songs I want to do.
That's it's a very smart way of doing it. So essentially, it's being that smart. Okay, I mean, it's not rocket science, but it does require intentionality. You need to say to yourself, okay, I need to be clever about how I deal with this, so that it doesn't become a mountain to climb every time. So that little thing is that you put on the TV, for instance, and you enjoy yourself and you're exercising. I go for 10 minutes, and we know every time I go to exercise for 10 minutes, which is the deal I make with myself, I put my timer on 10 minutes. Okay, I always end up exercising for an hour, but we know why now. We know that also in our body, the moment muscles begin to work and their temperature begins to rise, they secrete a particular neurotransmitter, which then changes the dopamine levels in our brain and allows us to do what we're doing for longer. And the rationale behind that is also ancient, because in the past, when you had to run for your life and a tiger was chasing you, or the hostile neighborly village warriors were chasing you, okay, what happens? You're running for your life and you get tired. What do you want to do when you get tired? Stop, because you're tired. Okay, but if you stop, you're gonna die. Yes, it's not a good strategy for survival. So essentially, what happens is if you start running for that particular length of time, which is usually about 10 minutes, right? If you're active for 10 minutes, then your muscles then basically send a signal to your brain, which changes the reward system, which changes your motivation, and then you can go on for a lot longer because you feel good about it. So that's designed in that particular past, which we left behind, to allow you to survive by doing what is physically difficult. You're running for your life, you want to stop because you're tired, but your muscles now basically send neurochemicals, neurotransmitters to your brain. Your brain dampens down the feelings of fatigue and exertion and everything else, and you start feeling good in what you're doing. So you keep on running and you escape and you survive.
And you also lose a sense of time a little bit.
Yeah, because you're lost in the moment. I mean, how beautiful is that? But again, you see how ancient drives in us can help us, as in this case, and it can also hinder us, as in our natural disinclination to exercise. And the moment we're aware about this, we can be smart. Because, I make a deal with myself, 10 minutes. I'm thinking, if at 10 minutes, on the 10-minute mark, I don't want to do any more, okay, I'm going to stop. I'll just get 10 minutes in. And it's never happened. I never gone just on 10 minutes.
Were you ever a runner?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I run, on average, I run about 25, 30K a week.
I in a 3-year period, when I was 31, 32, and 33, I ran 10,000 miles in those 3 years. And I think, in retrospect, it's one of the dumbest things a person can do to their body.
Yeah, it's good.
I mean, I'm paying for it now. In arthritis, and I had a doctor tell me, funny story. a doctor told me about 8 years ago. He was doing some X-rays, and he said, he said, I see more arthritis than I think I've ever seen in a body. And I said, well, I don't feel it necessarily then. And he said, because you exercise, because you have a routine, and but wow, I guess he was saying that you stop exercising, David, you're going to feel more arthritis. Maybe that's why I keep going.
Well, if you stop, it's funny you should say that, but this is what happens. If you stop exercising, your body de-strengthens. And when it does de-strengthen, basically your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments become weaker, which means your joints become less capable. You lose a little bit of mobility. Now, you haven't just lost physical capability. You've also lost neurochemical capability. So certain neurotransmitters won't be working in your body. So the signals from brain to body are going to become weaker. Your reflexes are going to become weaker. The way you respond to the external environment is going to become weaker. So all these things now compromise our function in everything, not just perceptually, and just mentally and physically and emotionally and psychologically, all those things. And as it does that, then we tend, in order for us to function, because we still have to function in the real world, we tend to to shorten our horizons is the best way to explain it. We tend to do a little bit less. We tend to be a little bit less mobile. We adjust our lifestyle to be more sedentary, more reclusive, less social, less active, all those things. And our function within those narrow constraints appears to us okay, but we are basically impaired. And as the body is impaired, that impairment is expressed in many different ways. Its ability to now rebuild muscle is compromised. Its ability to rebuild cartilage is compromised. The immune system itself, which is part of the inflammatory response that sometimes leads to arthritis, is either malfunctioning or it's overreactive. So we get all these symptoms which we normally associate with aging. And I'm drawing a very broad picture here. There are very special cases sometimes with genetic predispositions or there are pathogens in the environment which are going to happen regardless. But on a very broad basis, the body is an adaptive machine. If we keep on doing things, then it keeps on basically maintaining its edge. And a part of this comes from research which I did writing Built to Last, which looked at ancient history, and I was looking at Sparta. And the story of 300, right, where 300 warriors, which weren't really 300, they also had 7,000 sort of attendants with them, so they're a little bit more than 300. But essentially, they went to fight, and because there was a one-way mission, it was a suicide mission, they sent warriors who were seasoned, they had already had children, so their bloodline wasn't going to be wiped out. And they were all in their 50s and 60s, and their king, Leonidas, was 63. And those people didn't go to fight in the veteran division, right? They went to fight against 18-year-olds and 20-year-olds. And it wasn't like, oh, we had a 10-minute battle, we need a 3-hour break now and some sustenance. It was a proper battle where they're actually putting their body through incredible stress. And they were capable, here's the point, but they're actually capable of doing that. They didn't think twice about it. They didn't feel disadvantaged by age. They didn't feel that they couldn't cope with the warriors that they were facing. Why? Because they'd been training all their life. Sure, they were old, but they were not helpless. They were not incapable. They were as lethal as anybody else they were facing. But that took the kind of everyday lifelong training where they didn't say, oh, I'm not doing it. And of course, Sparta is renowned for creating an environment which didn't leave you a choice. Okay, we can admire them as being warriors who had discipline and willpower, etc. But really, this is the truth of it. They simply did not have a choice. You did that, or you were nowhere. You ostracized. So you were thrown out of the city. So you became a warrior out of necessity. But the fact is that there were warriors. And you meet these 63-year-olds from the past, and they're absolutely frightening dudes. And you think, how is it possible? Well, here's how it's possible. Because they didn't stop. They didn't say, oh, we're getting older, we need to slow down. Or, we need lighter weapons now because these are too heavy. They didn't say any of those things.
I had some things, some quotations I wanted to read actually from your
Okay,
final word. Uh, and this is crazy. The way I read a book differently. I go to the index and pick topics, and then that's basically how. And with your book, it was wow. And I looked to see the chapter headings, and it was real easy to figure it out how I was going to read your book. But I've been having problems with a sore neck, and you've got page 222 dedicated to some things I can be doing with my sore neck. I, in fact, do all those things and more. I
brilliant. I'm glad to
I have
hear
to
that.
do more because um, mine's arthritis. Basic, well, mine's arthritis and muscle. Well, when you get old, it's everything, and that's just a part of the aging process. And but your final word was right across, and I love. Ultimately, you are the one responsible for what you physically do and who you become as a result. You demonstrated that very
Yeah,
clearly today. The workouts in this book have been handpicked and field tested by the Global Volunteer Network of Derby.com to give you a choice that fits in with most of your circumstances. But they are only the beginning. The book is only the beginning. The next thing is read the book, do the book. Listen, I just it's totally enjoyable for me to go through it because I then tie these things into what I have been talking to people about and what they can do and uh, I do a lot of things, David, that I believe that the answers in it are our skeletal structure, and that we have to keep our skeleton as normal, if you will, as we possibly can. So
mm,
I try to do all those things that do that, and it helps. But when the structure is being interrupted with arthritis, that's a challenge. But you learn to live with it. You learn to live with it.
absolutely. And I'm glad you said that because, okay, I mean, in your case, it's arthritis. Other people have other kind of impairments. As we age, okay, we have about 30 trillion cells in our body. And those 30 trillion cells at some point begin to go wrong because there's too many of them. And what that means essentially is that as we exercise, we adjust our targets, we adjust our capabilities for what we want to achieve. And again, it comes down to that, paradox of fitness. You think, well, I'm older now. I'm, 60, 70, 80, 90, whatever it is we actually are. I can't do what I could do. Fine, I will accept that because there is a certain degree of degradation where no amount of dieting, sleeping, socializing, and exercise is going to, make you as strong as when you were 20 and 30 and 40. However, just because you can't do the things which you could do when you're 20, 30, and 40 doesn't mean you can't do things. And the moment you accept that, the moment you realize that, suddenly your horizons broaden. You'll find out, what can I do? I mean, if my knee hurts, for example, okay, obviously I can't run marathons anymore because of arthritis in my knee. But can I do squats? Can I do knee exercises when I'm sitting on a chair where there's no pressure on the knee joint? These are the things which require us to basically understand what I finished the book with, the responsibility we have to our body, and by association, direct association to our brain, to actually be active within the capacity and the limits that describe a particular set of circumstances.
I always like to use the expression, listen to your body. You're going to get all the
Yes.
answers. Listen to it. And
Okay,
if you've
that's
got a
really
sore,
smart.
if you've
You're
got a sore
right.
muscle, work that muscle. Find out why it's sort to make it strong. And
Yes.
that's where you individualize the exercise and make it about themselves. And certainly Built to Last allows folks to do that. I mean, there's
Yes. We
all this.
actually are built to last. There's no, and that doesn't mean we stay young forever. Clearly, we do not. But that doesn't also mean that the moment we get past 30 and 40 and 50, we're incapable of enjoying life, or incapable of having freedom of movement and mobility. And also, by doing all those things and maintaining those, we maintain our mental health, which is really important.
I just arbitrarily turn to the page breathing workout. Breathing to me is extremely important.
Yes.
And you probably know it's if you can master breathing in and out through your nose, as the Navy SEALs do, you will you get better oxygenation. And I do breathing exercises to put me to sleep every night before I do.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought this up, because these are usually a contentious issue, and there are all sorts of myths around it.
I like to be contentious.
Yes. Well, let's demystify this particular aspect.
Let's demystify.
All right, so we have two openings in our body through which we can breathe. We have our nasal cavity and we have our mouth. And the question always is, well, which one is better? And the answer is neither of those two. I mean, they're both just as good. So if you breathe in through your nose or if you breathe in through your mouth, well, you will get exactly the same amount of oxygen into your lungs. There's no problem about that. But here is what happens. So that doesn't mean they're equal, though. I'll stress this. Okay, so we have basically, from those two openings, we have three different combinations. We can go nose in, mouth out, that's one. Nose in, nose out, that's two. And mouth in, mouth out, that's three.
You got it.
We can try a fourth, which is mouth in, nose out. That's difficult, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that one we discount that entirely. And the reason we discount this entirely is for exactly the reasons which I'm going to explain why there's a better way of doing it. Now, if we just go on purely oxygen intake, whether breathing through the nose or through the mouth, it's the same thing. But when we breathe in through the nose, a number of other things happen which don't happen when we breathe in through the mouth. Okay, what are the things that happen? Well, the obvious ones first. Filtering. The air has particles, whether it's pollen, pathogens, whatever it is. If we breathe in through the nose, then they get filtered because there are hair follicles in the nose in the different chambers. The air that we breathe in will actually warm up as it goes through the nose. And by the time it reaches our lungs, it has warmed up to a certain temperature, which makes it more acceptable to our body. If we breathe in through the mouth, we get the same quantity of air, but also we'll take in pathogens, we'll take in pollen, we'll take in whatever sort of things are up in the air, whatever particles are floating in the air. And certainly that air will not warm up. If you're in high altitude and it's cold, you breathe in through your mouth and your throat begins to freeze because you feel it instantly. It's not a nice feeling. Okay, so basically that's one thing. Now, if you breathe in through your nose, this is another thing that happens. Essentially, the nitric gas that's in the body is activated in the lungs. And that allows us, with each breath that we take, to basically utilize the oxygen contained in that breath a little bit better in the lungs. So although the quantity of air that will get into our lungs is the same, whether we breathe in through the nose or through the mouth, the amount of oxygen which we utilize if we breathe in through the nose is a little bit higher. So we become a little bit better oxygenated. This is why runners, for instance, never run breathing in and out from their mouth, because they want as much oxygen as possible in order to optimize their run. And if you run long enough, what happens? You get accustomed to breathing in through the nose and then exhaling through the mouth. Okay, so then it comes down to, okay, if the inhalation is different with each one in terms of efficacy, obviously we'll start breathing in through the nose. But what about breathing out? Why do we have to breathe out through the mouth instead of through the nose? Well, for the same reason that we don't breathe in through the mouth and out through the nose, because in order for us to breathe, this is what has to happen. Our diaphragm muscles relax, the lungs expand, they pull in air, because that's the only way we can breathe. And then in order to exhale, the diaphragm muscles constrict and we exhale. If we have to do it through the mouth, if we have to do the exhalation through the mouth, it's a large opening, the constriction of the diaphragm is relatively low, and we exhale all that air. But if we took it through the nose and we try to exhale forcefully through the nose, then it's a narrow opening. Certainly, we can do it. It's not an issue. But energetically, it's a tiny little bit more effort. The diaphragm works a little bit harder to push that air out through the nose. And if we're running, that energetic effort begins to tire us out a lot more. I mean, even if we're sitting down, we start going, we start feeling tired straight away. Well, it's not the breathing in that tires us out, it's the breathing out. So the most efficient way to do it is breathing through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And the only drawback you may have on that is that your mouth begins to go dry. But if you stick your tongue to the top of your mouth, you activate your salivary glands, and then it never goes dry.
Thank you for that. I'm going to change my breathing. Wow. Although when I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm not looking for new energy. I'm looking to kind of, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Going to sleep is an entirely different thing, because first of all, we take shallower breaths. Secondly, the levels of oxygen that we need in our body begin to drop a little bit because our muscles are active in a different way. They're not making large movements. We don't need to basically go into any kind of oxidative process in order to produce energy. So we don't need large breaths. And the diaphragm itself begins to take shallow and shallow movements. So during the night, our breaths become very shallow. Sometimes it can be almost imperceptible. So we don't need to then worry about that. This is active breathing we're talking about, that you need to inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth.
Thank you for now becoming a mentor of mine. You got marketing and sales. You've been doing that for years. Mentoring on life and life issues, and now fitness. We've covered all the bases, haven't we, David? Thank you.
Absolutely have, yes. There's nowhere else to go from now.
You're the man. That's why you're David number 1 and I'm David number 2. That's why. I think that's basic. Is there something that you would like to add? Something? I mean, we covered a lot of territory today.
We did. It's been a very productive chat. Well, yeah, I'm going to say, we live in a modern world that's really hectic. It tires us out. And what we need to understand is that when we feel stressed, when we work mentally, when we're sitting in a chair, we're not actually doing anything, but we work incredibly hard with our brain. And the brain sort of uses up about 20% of the body's energy resources. So it's a lot of hard work. The brain has cells, and the cells, although they're different in structure, they're not different in nature. They're using the same amount of fuel, or the same type of fuel that every other cell in our body uses. And what's that? It's adenosine triphosphate, called ATP for short. So that's the primary energy that we use for our body. We only have so much to use up each day. So if we get tired because we're stressed, we have to make a difficult decision, because we had a hard day at work, because we did a really productive day on our laptop or computer, then we have less energy to allocate for training. This is natural. That's why we feel tired, even though we haven't lifted anything, we haven't climbed anything, we haven't run or anything like that. However, it is important to move the body in order to keep it in a healthy condition that will maintain the health of the brain. And the magic here and the trick is to work out, what can you do? If you can't do an hour's training at the end of the day because you're exhausted, because your lifestyle and your life is really difficult, and a lot of people right now face that, I get that. Can you do 10 push-ups? Can you do 10 squats? And then go to bed?
I can't do either of those things. I can do modified.
Well, yeah, whatever that works for you. I mean, I gave an example here, and I'm drawing directly from what I would do. But let's say, what can you do? And say, well, I can do perhaps 10 movements like that. I can do 10 half, sit on a chair and stand up 10 times. Brilliant, I'll take that. That's excellent. But you have to do it. You can't say to yourself, I'm too tired. And I know how difficult it is to make yourself do it. But think of all the bad things that'll happen to you if you don't do it. That's what keeps me going.
One word I have not heard today, but it definitely plays into the discussion, is discipline. I haven't heard that word, but you have to be disciplined. Because we're built to last and do what we have to do.
This is why I don't go on about discipline, because everybody says you need to be disciplined, and nobody explains what discipline is. And everybody thinks, well, either you have it or you don't have it, and it becomes so difficult. It's another stick to beat ourselves up with. And discipline essentially is us working out the emotionality of our choices. That's what it is. So if you emotionally connect the fitness you want to have 5 years from now, 10 years from now, with who you are. Well, there's your discipline, because now you're inclined to do something every day.
You have a plan. You have a plan, a strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, what do we say in business? You have to plan your work and work your plan. It's no different in life. It's no different in fitness. Plan what you have to do, have a contingency plan in case your plan fails. So on a day when you think, okay, I'm going to do, what is it today? Well, it's Wednesday. Okay, I've got to do an hour's aerobic exercise. It's impossible. You had such a hard day. There's simply no way you're going to do that. It's okay, what else can I do? And you have told yourself, oh, I've got this plan here, which is 2 minutes. But 2 minutes you can do for sure.
I have to say this to you. You'll appreciate this. I am today more creative than I've ever been in my life. It's amazing. I produce more stuff than I ever have before. And well,
David, you are an inspiration in many ways, because you're driven, you're productive, and every time you find some kind of obstacle in your way, you basically use your brain to find your way around it, right? And if we take those 3 things from you and apply it to our lives,
no, it's about you today. It's not about me. It's about you.
Thank you. But you understand what I'm saying? I mean, you live your truth. You understand these things. You have your own difficulties and problems like everybody else. And instead of focusing on them to the extent that you say, well, I'm getting older. I'm not as good as I was. I feel my body not being as healthy, and it's getting me down. You don't do that. You say, okay, what can I actually get? How can I enjoy my day? How can I make sure that I'm doing everything I can do to maintain my edge? And you actually do it. So I think that's admirable.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. A little surprise for you.
Okay.
Anybody who watches this video, obviously they're going to have to watch it to get the offer I'm going to make. Anybody who watches the video and becomes a charter member of David's Baby Boomer Whatever community that I started about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. Anybody who joins, I will contribute $25 of the $99 admission to Derby. How about that?
So very nice of you. I think that's awesome. Thank you.
So, but more importantly, buy the book and do it. Just get it and do it and make it a part of your lifestyle. Read a page a day.
That'll help you for sure.
Well, thank you, David, for your time, and
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure.
It's been great and a very, very surreal experience for me. And when you get my age, you need all those surreal experiences you can have. So, any stupid question? Do you have a plan for the book number 20? Yes, it's
not yet. Well, I kind of do.
It will be a book 20.
Yeah, and 21 maybe, and 22. But I'm mulling things over in my mind. I constantly, one thing I don't like doing is I don't like doing the same things over and over again, because it loses interest for me to simply repeat myself. So I'm sort of considering a number of options and exploring them, and that's about as much as I'll say. But they're very exciting.
As much as you need to say. You spent about 3 years researching Built to Last, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah, it took 3 full years for that. Yeah.
Well, you've done a wonderful job, and I've got to personally thank you for it. You have brought some additional value to my life, and we look for those things, and thank you. Thank
you so much. I really appreciate your invitation to be here.
So, are you going to work out now for 10 minutes, or are you going to work? Or are you going to work out for an hour? What are you going to do now?
Well, I've got another sort of Zoom call in about 5 minutes, and then after that, I'm going to work out for an hour. Yeah.
Well, thank you, David, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, take care, and thanks again.
I better stop the recording first.